my talk, as soon as the slides are going to get up there, is about the small changes that you can make in your 20s that will have a large impact in terms of the success of your future. And so a little fact about me is that I'm 53 years of age. According to tonight, in 2 years' time, I'll be printing all of my emails. But what's odd about that is I'm a very avid user of AI tools. Anyways, I've made friends with a great lady called Samantha Chia. And Samantha is in her 20s. She's in her early to mid-20s. And we work together at Microsoft. She's actually in the audience, and I do want to wave at her. She's somewhere there. There she is. So we've become friends over the last few years because the thing that Microsoft forces us to do is to think about how we demonstrate growth mindset through D&I initiatives. So the thing that Samantha and I are passionate about is education. And it all came together at USyd for us this year. So earlier this year, we worked on a promptathon, and we had 75 students join us, and that was at capacity. And we took a subset of those students to the Innovation Centre at Microsoft, where those students got to see the future of tech, they got to meet some USyd alumni, and they got to get mentored by these USyd alumni people, as well as meeting with HR. And spending that much time together made us have deep talks. And we started to talk about the things that really matter in our lives. And we came up with, and I'm clicking the right way. We came up with these 4 things. And we actually put them in the order of what's important to us. So here we are, 30 years difference in our age group, and the same things matter to us. Strong relationships, obviously your personal relationships, but this also means your professional network, making those thrive. Financial flexibility and financial freedom. Now, people don't like to talk about money, but life is a heck of a lot better if you get this right, and you feel so much more secure in yourself if you get it right as well. Health and well-being. I think of you as the generation that gets so much information in terms of how to look after your mental health and how to look after your physical health. And it is one of those things that if you get it right, it makes everything else work. And if you get it wrong, things start to crumble. And for Samantha, she talks a lot about mental health, and I talk a lot about physical health. At 53, I need to keep this machine running. And career expectations, we put it at the end. We spend so much time in our careers, but we put it at the end. But we still want to have a thriving career. We want to enjoy our careers. So what does it mean to have a good career, and what role does it play in our lives? So they're the 4 things that we've been discussing in our friendship. Oh, go Jules. Starting with relationships. So I asked Samantha, what's really important to you at this point in your life? Here you are in your almost mid-20s. What is important to you? And she said the quality of her relationships is far more important than the quantity of her relationships. And I couldn't agree more. So she doesn't expect the relationships to stay the same, but she knows that she has to invest in the most important relationships in her life. And the thing that bonds people is shared values. I certainly want to know that I'm respected for my values, and I want to respect the person that I'm engaging with for their values. And that's the most enduring qualities of a person and a relationship. But what about your professional network? You want that to be big and wide. And I know at this point in your lives, you're actually starting to build it. What a great fortunate set of circumstances you're in, where you've got that opportunity through your university courses. But I know that a lot of you also make a lot of effort to go to meetups and networking groups. So it's really important to invest that time in meeting others. But what is it that actually makes you engaging? Taking a learning mindset is the most important thing when you're expanding your network. And in terms of having a learning mindset, This is where you're meant to clap. I think you were given the instruction at the very start. Thank you very much for that. What I wanted to say is that when you have a networking opportunity, think of it as a learning opportunity, not a networking opportunity. But you have to have good communication skills. So when we ran our promptathon, we had a lot of students come up to us afterward and they said, how do I come across as more confident? How do I become a better communicator? A lot of people don't have the confidence. And it's a really big question to ask, but I guess the thing that we try to whittle it down to is that you've got to practice. You've got to put yourself into uncomfortable situations. Here's one. And take those opportunities to gather your thoughts and think about the sort of message that you want to communicate to people. But sometimes you need a bit of inspiration. You know, in our work, we have to engage with executives. And I find their tone very conservative, but I have to meet their tone. And sometimes I need a little bit of inspo in terms of how do I become the right person in that room. And so I turned to watching some YouTubes on famous journalists. I find female, strong journalists really inspiring. So I'm not trying to mimic them. I'm just trying to take an essence of how they sound and feel that within myself. So sometimes you can just jazz yourself up a little bit by taking inspiration from other examples. So that's in terms of relationships. Finances. Financial flexibility, becoming financial freedom. Is this important to you? It certainly was to me in my 20s. And I'll give you a little story in terms of somebody I met. So I met a friend who actually got me into IT, took me out of advertising and got me into IT. And she talked about the fact that she had credit card debt, and here I was with savings. But here's the fact, she was earning 3 times what I was earning. So we started to talk about the fact that it's pretty important to form a savings goal. And I said, I've got to jolt you into action. I'm embarrassed for you that you're earning so much money, but you're not looking at where it's going and that you're not putting it aside or some of it aside to, for your future. So in 3 months' time, she returned to me and she surpassed me. She did better than me, and today she's a wealthy woman. So obviously, to reach those sorts of heights, you have to have a savings and investment strategy. And the investment piece is certainly out of scope from today's talk. But when it comes to savings, I want you to think about one simple discipline that you can bring into your life. That discipline is the concept of opportunity cost. A lot of people spend to just get a sense of relief or a bit of excitement in that moment. And if you have that indulgent moment, you want to do that indulgent spend, I ask you to think about what is the opportunity cost of where else that money can go. Can it go towards your future? You had to earn it. So think about the opportunity cost of that spend. And the reason I'm actually harking on about this is because you are in a wonderful stage in life, because you're young. I'm pretty sure all of you will know about the magic of compound interest. I know my 14-year-old daughter is taught it in maths. So it's not a new concept. But I have witnessed so many people leave it until very late in life, and they think it's something they have to do when they hit a milestone in their future, like a permanent relationship, before they start thinking about their future. And those people have to catch up to those that start early. I put into ChatGPT a little quiz. I said, if I'm 25 and I save $50 a week and I exit the workforce at 60, what will I end up with? And I asked ChatGPT, what happens if I start at 35? And the mathematicians in the room can probably guess the answer, but it more than doubles the outcome, and yet the effort is exactly the same. So I think it's one of those things that starting early is such a fortunate thing if you can get that right. Let's see if I got the direction right this time. Yes! Health and well-being. You are a generation that gets so much information. And I find it confusing. If I think about over the decades, the advice that you get changes all the time. But when it comes to health and well-being, all of these things matter. Certainly I discovered sleep in my late 30s when I had burnout. So all of these things matter and they work together. But I want to concentrate on just two things, one being diet and the other being practicing gratitude. The reason I chose diet to begin with is because I learned something from a professor that used to be at UCID. She specialised in obesity. And she went around the world to all these research institutions and learnt about how do you get to metabolic health, but also get into your natural state. So not all of us are going to be the same shape and can get to thinness, but to get to your natural healthy state. And she's written a book about it. I went to one of her talks at a Raise the Bar event, which is a pub talk that you guys do around the city. And she rested on one principle, which is eat when you're hungry and stop when you feel satisfied. Now, when it comes to practicing gratitude, I'm not going to teach anybody how to practice gratitude, but I want to leave you with a resource. Does anybody know Dr. Laurie Santos? Okay, so Dr. Laurie Santos is a famous professor at Yale University. Anyone heard of Yale University? Okay. So in her early tenure at Yale, she lived in a frat house. And it's part of the whole, you've got to be in residence to experience what university life is like. And when she was there, she noticed all these fantastic A-type students who were so unhappy. And so she couldn't quite understand it. She wrote a course called The Science of Wellbeing. And she ran it at the university, and it was the most popular course on campus. And you can now enjoy that for free. So on the Coursera platform, you can actually find Dr. Laurie Santos and do the course. It's about 8 or 9 hours of work on the science of wellbeing. She teaches you how your mind plays so many tricks in terms of messing with your happiness. Things like comparing yourself to others, chasing the wrong things. When is enough enough? What are the things that truly make you happy? And gratitude is one of those principles. Right, on to the last subject. With the clicker moving in the wrong way, I think I might leave my thumb just where the up arrow is. Career expectations. I loved talking to Sam about her career. So Sam works with me at Microsoft. She works in the Innovation Hub. She's got a really fabulous job, and in the eyes of our employer, we are equal talents. And Sam talks to me about how do I think about my perfect job? How do I find my perfect job? It was one of those enduring questions that she kept asking. And we would talk about what does it mean to have a great job? I think the 70% fit is good. If you can find in the majority of your work that you're actually engaged and find it interesting, and the minority of time is spent on stuff that you don't like, that's a pretty good deal. So it's interesting watching Sam make some of her decisions. She's been approached by prestigious brands, and she's not chasing prestige. I think that's absolutely wonderful, and I think that's actually what your generation is like, that you're looking at the things that fulfill you versus the things that give you prestige. Certainly at this point in her career, she's thinking a lot about the learning experience, and that's important to her. And I think in your 20s, that's a very important principle to live by. But I want to talk about mentors, and I want to share my own experience. In my 20s, I was in IT sales, and it's pretty stressful. And I was looking for how can I become the best seller in my organisation. I really wanted to become great at my craft. And so I thought, who's the best example of this? So I approached the managing director of this large systems integrator, and I said, can you mentor me? And so I went to meet with him, and he gave me all this instruction on what I should be. He wanted me to be aggressive. He wanted to mould me into examples of what he thinks perfection is. He was telling me what I should be like, And I looked at this person and I thought, we have nothing in common, and I feel smaller after being in this room instead of feeling larger. So I changed my attitude toward mentoring. Now what I look at is skills mentoring. So I'll give you an example that happened just this week. At work, we're going through the performance reviews, and we all have to pitch to our manager why it is that we're great at our job. So we have to do a one-pager. And I said to my manager, I don't think I'm your best performer. I think my colleague Jayesh is. So I'm going to spend some time with Jayesh, and I'm going to learn from him what it is in his pitch that he does better than me. I found a problem with myself or a gap, and I went to somebody that I think does it much better than myself. And so I'll learn in that moment what I need to get better versus trying to find someone who can answer to me as a coach. And it works time and again. And so you should think about building a portfolio of mentors, not having a single mentor that is going to understand you. Okay, that's very different to the slide that I put up, but anyways. So when Sam and I talked about this, the thing that she said to me is that all of this really resonates with her as the Kaizen principles of continuous improvement. The small changes in your life can make a big difference to the large goals that you have in the future. So if we think about the things that we talked about, when it comes to strong relationships, sometimes you can misread people. If you haven't heard from them for about 2 or 3 weeks, you think they've lost interest in you. Send a text, call them up, communicate however you like, but reach out, be warm. Don't think about the unsettled feeling that you have, just be warm and reach out to them. Often you'll find they've just been busy and, really pleased to hear from you. So that's in terms of relationships. In terms of finances, start with something. Start with $20, $20 a week. And once you start forming that small habit, try and stretch it out to 50 the next week. Revisit that in a month's time. Can you make it 60, 70? Form the habit, because that habit will actually prevent you from going into this crazy lifestyle creep that I see most people go into. When it comes to health and well-being, there are days that I do not want to do my exercise. So I have 3 walks. I have one that goes for an hour, I have one that goes for 30 minutes, and I have one that goes for 10 minutes. Or I just do 30 squats. Just have one mandatory activity that you do every day to get your body moving. And then when it comes to career, in terms of making a small step, reach out to people on LinkedIn, make one connection. Reach out to somebody that you think does something a little bit better than yourself and use that as a learning experience. Practice a 1-minute speech on something, just so your communication is clear. So there's some simple tactics that you can take in your 20s that will develop into great habits. You're in such a wonderful stage of your life. I wish you the very best success. I hope you have a great life. Thank you very much.